In watching the Supreme Court today, I thought it's a very beautiful process. I hope that democracy in this country will continue.
Donald Trump sounding pretty confident, while the Supreme Court sounding pretty skeptical on the case that could alter the course of American history. The top court hearing oral arguments on whether Colorado can ban former President Trump from its state ballot. And they seem to be leaning in favor of the former president. Colorado disqualified Trump from its ballot and citing Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, saying he's ineligible for the White House under the U.S. Constitution's insurrection clause, despite the fact that no court has ever convicted him of insurrection. But here's how bad it got for the Democrats. The Obama-appointed Justice Kagan questioned the entire foundation of the case.
Why should a single state have the ability to make this determination, not only for their own citizens, but for the rest of the nation? It sounds awfully national to me. If you weren't from Colorado and you were from Wisconsin or you were from Michigan, and it really, what the Michigan Secretary of State did is going to make the difference between whether candidate A is elected or candidate B is elected. I mean, that seems quite extraordinary, doesn't it?
Here's also how you know the Democrats lost big at the court. It was like a funeral for the liberal media.
The Republican justices, all 6 of them, will defend their boy and keep Trump on the ballot.
This argument did not go well for the Trump challengers, and that's to put it mildly. I probably have some other adjectives that I won't say on air.
He is the one who helped fan the flames that led to the insurrection, however they decide.
Now it's time to disenfranchise a disenfranchiser, and they're just looking for the exits. It's just bizarre to me to watch the system continue to bend over backwards as he plays his chicken game with our system.
Okay, I think we've gotten all the legal analysis we're going to get out of President Trump. It's odd there because this was actually an opportunity for her to come out and say,
well, it's not, because he wants to talk about himself.
Oh, the serious legal analysis after CNN. Judge, what struck you today listening to these arguments?
I have, for the last few years, often wondered about my role as a prosecutor and as a public official. I mean, the system sometimes seems rigged. There are 2 systems of justice. We've been talking about it. But as I sat there and listened, it was a great day for me and hopefully for many Americans, because we saw the United States Supreme Court go beyond the issue of politics, recognize that its job was to analyze the Constitution in a textualist way, in an interpretation that was not about politics. And when you saw them or heard them, it was clear that they were united on some issues. And it was a moment that, to me, transcended politics, and I loved it. Okay. They proved today how wrong the left was in predicting that, this was all about politics and, they would make arguments that had nothing to do with the law. All of these arguments had to do with the law. The fundamental question is the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment was enacted to restrict state power, not to add state power. And for them to interpret an insurrection where nobody's been convicted of insurrection as a cause and give one Secretary of State the ability, just as we heard, I think it was Justice Kagan talking about, to affect the United States and literally determine who will be our next president is antithetical to the Constitution. There's no role for the states here unless Congress gives the states the authority. They did not do that. And it was interesting that Sotomayor, who was the outliner, said, there is a lack of due process. She said that President Trump has not been afforded that due process as it relates to whether or not he's an insurrectionist. So it was legally, he was convicted by the mainstream media. The mainstream media believe that they are the courts and the justices. The left is so frustrated because they've controlled so much, and all of a sudden they get to the top court and they realize that they may lose on the law.
Yeah, I heard Ketanji Brown Jackson also sounding very doubtful, Harold, listening to the arguments presented by the Colorado attorneys.
One of the great things about our country, and we sometimes forget, and I try not to, is that our legal system works. These are judges. Well, I disagree, Judge Pirro, on this one. these are Supreme Court justices, 9 of them, who've been appointed by presidents, but who took an oath of office. And we shouldn't be surprised that these justices, because they were appointed by Democrats, nor should Democrats be surprised when a Republican-appointed justice might agree with them. This is what our judicial system, this is what our framers had in mind. When Justice Sotomayor said due process had not been given to Mr. Trump, it didn't matter to her who Mr. Trump was. He's an American. And you can't deny someone an opportunity to be on the ballot if they hadn't been convicted of something. Matter of fact, he hadn't been charged with leading an insurrection, nor has he been convicted of anything. Furthermore, the record in Colorado, you can't take the record of a partisan hearing, which is what it was. It was a Democrat-led, although they had Republicans on there too, and use that. That's not a trial. They used that as a record for what they did. So this was absolutely, I believe, what was supposed to happen. And we don't have a decision yet, but it seems as if that's what they're saying. President Trump needed some good news on the legal front. The absolute immunity case has been rejected by the D.C. Circuit Court, and you had a judge here award a defendant, I think, $80 million or so in some case. So President Trump had every right to say what he said today. I'm not sure it was a beautiful process. I would just call it America, the process working. But President has every right to characterize it how he wants to characterize it.
How did you characterize the process?
I would just make it, well, I thought it was beautiful listening to it this morning. But I do think that whereas America believes that the Supreme Court is just hopelessly divided, about a third of the opinions that they release are 9-0. And you don't hear about them, just like you don't hear about all the planes that landed safely. This one, however, if it does go 9-0, and that looks like the way it will go in Trump's favor, you'll hear about it, and it will be good to then get the process going. The bigger story for me is not this one. I mean, Trump's going to be on the ballot. It's going to be fine. It's the story that we did at the beginning. I'm still shell-shocked by it. I just cannot imagine what this White House is going to do.
Greg, it seemed like the media had their expectations raised a little too high for this argument.
I love watching CNN. They officially have more people on their panel than viewers. Have you seen their ratings? By the way, the Democrats aren't worried. President Biden says he already spoke to Thurgood Marshall, and he's good with banning Trump. No, you do see the reason why the media is melting down is because they hoaxed themselves into believing the insurrection hoax. Because to believe that hoax, you have to believe that it's the first ever unarmed insurrection. It's the first where many participants were let in and taking selfies. It's the first ever insurrection where the only casualty was an unarmed female protester who was shot dead. It's the first ever insurrection where the president was there giving a constitutionally protected speech where he implored citizens to protest peacefully. So that's crazy. So you got to remember, who's behind the insurrection hoax? Same people that were behind Russiagate. They just switched out the subjects and the verbs. But it's interesting to see a party that claims to be protecting democracy trying so hard to get the opposition off the ballot so democracy is thwarted. If you want election interference, you got it. It's right there.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.